Hello and welcome to Crafting with Rec. My name is Mrs. Sam, and today you're joining me in creating a pink pumpkin wreath in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I'm going to go over some materials with you. It's super easy, super cost efficient, and pretty much anyone can do it. I would recommend an adult and at least a parent and a kid. I would not recommend this for younger kids because some of the materials that we're going to be using can be a little bit dangerous. So we want to make sure that we're using all the good safety precautions when we create this wonderful wreath. So I'm going to go over the materials now with you. We have an assortment of different colored flora from any kind of dollar store you can find them at, or a craft store for very cheap. I actually painted these pink pumpkins just using regular acrylic paint and Mod Podge. You're going to need a wreath. This is a grapevine wreath. You can also find that at a craft store, or you can make your own if you grow grapes. You're going to need wire, some wire cutters, scissors, twine, and a hot glue gun. So it's really self-explanatory. The most work that you're going to be putting into this project is kind of laying out your wreath and how it's going to look. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to prepare our flora. So we're going to take them out, and you're usually going to get them in large bundles like this. And what we're going to need to do is cut them with some wire cutters here. Using regular scissors doesn't usually cut it because they're usually not thick enough. You're going to need something that'll cut right through this. So I'm just going to take a moment and start cutting up my bundle here. And I'm going to take my pliers and my cutters and just kind of snap those off, just like that. And we're going to do that for each one. And you might notice that you'll have a lot of extra materials, so you may be able to create another wreath using the materials that you have. This is actually all that I got for one, and I had enough for two, so it was great. So this is the month of October, and we want to honor those going through treatment or our survivors. And I put this on my home door, and I just think it looks great, and you can use it all year round. So keep going here. Takes a little bit of muscle, but not too much. Cut those up. These are some really pretty white maple leaves here, and I use them around the entirety of my wreath there. This I actually got from Michael's. They do sales all the time. So usually if you buy a wreath online, it can be kind of pricey. It can be up to $80, $100. So this wreath cost me about 20 bucks. And I really enjoy making these. Finish this up here. So as you may or may not know, I work at Cadell Fine Arts, and I teach a variety of classes here, including drawing, painting, ceramics. I also teach special needs art classes as well, and kids classes too. So if you are looking to do projects like this with me in the future, you can call me at 216-664-4183. And we can get you registered for classes. I like to get these bouquets that have lots of different flowers in them too, because it'll just kind of give you a nice variety. I kept a very simple monochromatic color palette, but you can be as colorful as you want to be. It's all up to you. And I create wreaths for every season. I just find them to be a beautiful addition to my home or your apartment or as a gift. All right, so I'm just gonna set these big pieces aside here. I also have this eucalyptus leaf as well. It's kind of in a wreath shape, so we can just kind of cut that into smaller pieces. I found them to be nice little great additions for some filler, because you're going to need some filler when we're creating a wreath as well. Okay, so most of these pieces are cut up. And you can even use the little tiny leaves and cut those up as well. So it doesn't have to be an entire bouquet, you know, of something big. You can just use the leaves too. Okay. Once we have all of our materials cut up and set to the side, this is when we start to arrange. So what I like to do is kind of start from the inside out and put my more complementary or showpiece pieces in the center. Okay, so I'm going to take probably my bigger flowers and put them in the middle. And I also like to create some symmetry, because I think a nice balance really helps out a wreath. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of sticking these inside of the grapevine. And later I'm going to go back and I'm going to hot glue those in, so that reinforces them to stay, because my wreath is actually outdoors. So I've had this wreath outdoors for a couple weeks now, and it's in perfectly great condition. And you know how the Cleveland weather can be. So we want to make sure that we reinforce that. So I'm just taking my flowers and I'm arranging it in a pleasing way to myself. I'm adding some leaves in between. And this is really the fun part to me. And it just, you can be very creative with it. And when I'm creating wreaths, I like it to be very full, and I don't really like the, for mine at least, the grapevine showing too much. So I just kind of use it as a holding place for my flowers. But I've seen a lot of beautiful wreaths where they left a lot of the grapevine showing. So it's really up to you, it's your preference. All right, so again, I'm just taking my flowers and placing them in the center, and then I think I'm going to use more of what I have the most to kind of flare it out on the outside, and also gives the illusion of it being much larger. So this is a 18-inch grapevine wreath that I found at the store, but you can go as big or small as you want. And the great thing about placing it right now is if you don't like something, I wouldn't go and hot glue it right away, because if you don't like where something is placed right away, you have the option of moving it around. So keep going here. I know that some people don't participate in Halloween and don't like the spooky stuff. So I thought this would be a great craft for those who just kind of like a pretty fall decor for their home that's functional and something that you make with your own hands. I'm just going to finish up here, placing some of these extra leaves around. And then I'm going to start working on the outside. I'm going to save my pink pumpkins for last, because these do not have any sort of holding spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hot glue those right on when I figure out exactly how I want this to be. So these ones are natural pieces of cotton, so I'm just going to rip those right off and stick just a couple pieces in, because I just like the look of it. These ones don't need to be cut. Gives you that kind of farmhouse decor look. And sometimes your flowers and leaves might be kind of crunched up together and stuff. So you want to take a moment and kind of fan those out, and it makes them look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Okay, it looks pretty, but it still needs a little bit more. So we're going to keep working on it. Now that I have most of my flowers placed, I'm going to go ahead and start doing the outer rim with this beautiful creamy maple leaves here. And I'm just kind of shoving them in on the sides. And I don't like this backing to show too much, so I kind of flip them around to make them look more realistic, I feel. And if your pieces are sticking out too much, you can always go back with a little bit of wire and reinforce those a little bit more as well. So I'm just sticking these in on the sides. And our wreath is just looking beautiful. I think I'm going to give this one as a gift. And again, you can repeat this process for any kind of wreath that you want to make for any year round, any time of year. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a couple of these pieces and stick them on the inside. Okay. I believe at the very end of all of my spending for this project, I spent maybe $20 at most for this. And I saw one very similar on Etsy for $80. So I was like, well, I like to do crafts and I'm an artist. I could probably make something like that. Although I do love to support small businesses. Make sure you fill up that top part. Okay. Add a couple more. Super straightforward. Anybody, any skill level can do it. Okay. See what we have so far. I think it looks pretty good. It's missing a little bit of green, I feel. There's a lot of white and pinks happening and stuff, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit of this eucalyptus leaf that I have here, right here. And this was a garland that I had bought, but you can always cut it down. So again, you can take your wire cutters here, and I'm gonna cut off a little piece here. I just wanted to see kind of how it looks, so I kind of, as I'm working, I start to make decisions on exactly what kind of flowers I want to use. Okay. And again, I like some symmetry, so I like to have one on both sides. And what is also going to make this easier for you when you're cutting, you're going to find these little divots. And if you use your wire cutters on those, it's going to make your cutting a lot easier. So get in there. There we go. All right, I'm gonna set this guy to the side. I might need him, but I'm not sure yet. All right, I think I'm gonna set this more on the inner part of my wreath. And I'm probably gonna glue some of this outer stuff down. Okay. All right, I think that looks pretty good. It's pretty full. And all we gotta do is start gluing stuff down, fanning some of the flowers and stuff out, and adding in our pumpkins. All right, so we definitely wanna use caution when we're using a glue stick. So if we are a younger person, we definitely want to have parental guidance with this because this glue gun is very hot, and this is a high heat glue gun. And I keep a piece of cardboard around just to kind of have it so it's not touching our table and ruining anything. So very carefully and gently, I'm just gonna kind of go in and I'm gonna give a couple dabs of hot glue around my touch points where my flowers meet my wreath. And if any of my flowers are kind of sticking out crazily, I can go in and add that glue. So I will say that once you stick it in the grapevine, it is pretty strong. It's pretty good in there, but it's always good to add a little bit of extra reinforcement. Okay. It's looking really good, you guys. Going in there and getting those little hidden spaces. Okay. So this is a very special project for me because my grandmother is a survivor of breast cancer. So I felt like this was a really great way to honor her. I'm really happy to be doing this project with you guys today. Make sure you get all those extra little hidden spots. Turn it around. Get that top. And if you kind of do it in the back of your flowers, it's really going to hide that glue. So you're not even going to know that it's there. Okay. All right, and here's what I like to do. I like to give it a little shake. Give it a little shake. Make sure everything's pretty good. So I think it's looking pretty good. It's pretty solid. Now the fun part is our pink pumpkins. So I'm going to kind of arrange these, set them around, see where I want them to be before I glue them down. So I have a couple little patches here, which is perfect, because then I can just use my pumpkin and cover those up. There, yeah, I'm just going to kind of set them around the entire thing. You can bunch them up and do just the bottom or just the top. But I think I'm just going to put them all over. I think that looks really nice. All right. Again, just take your glue stick, a little bit of glue, and watch your hands. We use a lot of caution. And I'm just going to put a whole bunch on the bottom of my pumpkin. And you want to work kind of quickly because it dries pretty fast. And I'm going to give it a little press for a few seconds. Okay. And you want to make sure that your piece is completely dry before you put it outdoors, just so that none of our hard work goes to waste and falls off. So again, just going to go around all along that bottom. I'm just going to be very liberal with my glue. Hold that down. You can get different sizes as well. These I got at the dollar store. They were white when I bought them. And again, I just painted them with acrylic paint and a little bit of Mod Podge to give it that sheen and weatherproof it. Make sure that's glued down real good. I'm going to cover up that patch there with my last pumpkin here. Lots of glue. If you don't have hot glue, you can use like an E600 or a really strong super glue. That might work very well for you as well. Okay. And at this time, all you got to do is kind of fan out your flowers one last time, get it exactly how you want it to be, because that is how it's going to stay. So I want my sunflowers to kind of be in the front, so I'm going to move things around just a little bit. Okay. Here's my final piece. The only thing that you want to do when you're finished with that is make a piece so that you can hang it up. So on my sample piece, as you can see here, on the back, I actually have a piece of wire with twine wrapped around it, just so that it's kind of masked with my wreath. So that is really simple to do as well. You can just get any kind of wire. This is frame wire that I had laying around the house. And you're going to kind of gauge where your hook is. My hook is really high up, so I wanted my, my wreath to hang a little bit lower. So I have about 6 to 8 inches of wire here, my frame wire. Again, we're going to use our pliers and we're going to cut these up. All right, so you're going to cut off your wire here, and you're going to take it in the middle and straighten it out so the two sides are equal. Set that to the side. I'm going to flip my wreath over after I decide exactly you know, which way I want my wreath to go. So do I want it this way or do I want it this way? I think I'm going to stick with it this way. I think my top is going to be up here. So I'm going to flip it over, and again I'm going to make sure that both of my sides are even, and I'm going to find a spot about maybe an inch down from the top, and I'm going to take my wire and scoop it underneath. Okay, and you have these two pieces here at the end. You want to feed those through, create this knot, you see? And after that, you just need to make that loop. So I'm going to take my two wires and I'm going to twist those around. Hold it up and I'm going to give it a little tug to make sure it's hung on there real good. So to hide this ugly wire, I have some twine here. And I'm just going to take it and wrap it around the outside of that wire. So I just created a little knot at the bottom. And I'm just going to take a whole bunch of twine, unwind it here. Grab my scissors. You don't have to do this part, but I think that it kind of makes it look really nice and finished. And you're just going to take it and loop it through, and you're just going to keep wrapping it around that wire until it's finished. So now that we've wrapped our wire with twine, we have this nice loop here. You can go ahead and hang it on your door now. So thank you so much for joining me again tonight, making this beautiful pink pumpkin wreath in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Again, my name is Mrs. Sam, and I'm from Cadell Fine Arts, and I hope you have a good night. Bye.